Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The Sharks head into Boston for a Sunday matinee game on the East Coast, and unfortunately, the body clock just did not cooperate with them. Should we chalk it up to one for the schedule maker? We'll see. But I've got Mark Eisenberg with me today, and we'll break down this game after the intro. But first, if you want to be a part of the show, Teal together with us and interact with us and chat and follow all the social media that we've got going. You've got the Twitter, you've got the Instagram, Facebook, the YouTube chat, of course, SoundCloud, the shenanigans that happen in Reddit, and then, of course, all the extra shenanigans that's over in that Discord. And if you want to ever check out any of the other great content that we've got everything going on at tealtownusa.com. It is a pleasure to be joined by Mark this afternoon. Mark, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Today was kind of a little bit of a frustrating game at the beginning, but then they kind of get their footing, and then, unfortunately wasn't the outcome that we wanted. But definitely one of those games that showed a lot of intestinal fortitude, at least from my perspective. But I guess quickly we'll start off with what a weird start time. It's these Sunday matinee games that Boston always seems to get. And then, it's been more than one time that the Sharks have drawn this particular time in Boston. And, the Sharks are notorious for not doing well, in the East Coast matinees. What'd you think about the weird start time and just kind of everything discombobulated just to start it?
Yeah, and they always say that it's harder for West Coast teams to play at the East Coast time zones versus the East Coast teams on the West, and then you have a 1:00 game like this. That's challenging, and I can say I got a lot of experience with it because I lived in Boston for 8 years, and I actually went to a couple of the Sharks Bruins games. One of which I remember I was in the last row of the stadium. Pretty terrible seats that still cost me about $1.50, and yeah, it's just always painful being an opposing fan when you're at a Boston sports team's game. So I've got a little bit of, nightmares from that, some bad blood. So I'm happy to be talking Sharks Bruins today.
Well, as a New Yorker, and I hail from New York lineage, so we're just kind of bred with that instinctive hate of Boston. So I feel you. Dad was a Yankees fan. Well, is a Yankees fan, and
Yep.
hate the Red Sox. So yeah, there's no
Don't
love
we all?
lost here. No love lost here for the Bruins and for the Red Sox from my end. But quickly, this game starts off with just a bang on that first period, first shift of the game. Brad Marchand with just seeing eye shot right over the left-hand shoulder of Aiden Hill, and I mean, Mark, to me, there's two problems with this, right? It's the defenseman not getting back. It's the defenseman not getting back into the play quick enough, and it's also the the goaltending there. It just kind of left them out to dry a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You know,
What are your thoughts?
they just came out firing the Bruins, and they were applying a lot of pressure down low. I think it was Burns and Ferraro specifically who struggled early on. And again, that trio that Boston has up top of Marchand, Bergeron, and Pasternak, it's just lights out. Probably the best line in all of the NHL. So, you make mistakes against them, they're usually going to make you pay, So that shot was top corner. Not a ton, I feel like Aiden Hill could have done on that. And what was it, 30 seconds into the game? So that set the tone right away for the entire game,
Yeah. And the Sharks, unfortunately, just really couldn't get a good footing in that first period. I felt Sorry, we're having some technical difficulties. I'm getting our cameras back on, so bear with us. Yeah, no, just unfortunately, the goaltending, I don't know, just didn't feel like it started on time, and then of course, the Sharks then really kind of meandered through that first couple of minutes. Seemed like the Boston Bruins were really all over the Sharks, and honestly, it just looked like they weren't ready to start. Um,
Yeah, and I think some of that relates probably to the fact that they're playing their third game in a short period of time. Definitely the scheduling, as you mentioned. Boston came out really hungry. They played Friday night, and this was only their fourth game, I think, of the season. But you could tell that they came out with fire at home in front of the home crowd, and the Sharks, they struggled a little bit out of the gate. I wouldn't say it was a terrible first period. I actually thought the Sharks had some really good moments there, and if they had capitalized on some chances, the score would have been a lot different throughout the game. But early on, the Bruins just capitalized on all their opportunities, and that really, I think, was the difference in the beginning portions of this game.
yeah, yeah, and it kind of even goes a little bit further. Um, Derek Forberg then kind of following up on a really good shift, again beating Hill on the shoulder side. Forberg with his first goal, Marchand and Clifton with the assists on that one. And honestly, I mean, that top line just dominated in that first period. I mean, there's not really much more to say than they put the punctuation mark on starting. And that first line, you give them any time and space in that zone, and forget it. And the team just looked like they didn't really have an answer. Whether it was, the Logan Couture line being out there, they really didn't have too much of an answer against Marchand and Pasternak and Bergeron. And then, I mean, really the only line that I felt had any kind of momentum was that fourth line. And that fourth line kind of kept it putting in a couple of good shifts here and there. But then the Sharks take a penalty, an ill-advised penalty against Boston, and of course the first line rolls out, and that first line gets the power play goal. David Pasternak, his second goal on the campaign. Bergeron with the assists. So at that point, Pasternak's already got a 2-point game. Bergeron has a 2-point game. And then Marchand has a 2-point game. So,
Yeah.
I mean, really, you could just nail it down to that, that first line just really, really carrying the Boston Bruins.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of kind of what you're going to get from Boston this year because, like as I mentioned, that top line can play against anyone in the world. They're world-class players, and when the Sharks didn't capitalize on their power play opportunities, and then you send the Boston power play out, a lot of times the team that has those kills consecutively, they kind of get some momentum off of that. And if you're also putting out some world-class weapons like they have, then you resulted in a quick power play goal, and suddenly you're down 3-0.
Yeah. Yeah, and against a team like Boston, it's just kind of a big mountain to climb after you've got your team into that position. After that third goal, I was kind of thinking that Aiden Hill might get the yank, just because it was 3 goals in that first period, and he didn't really look all that comfortable in net, and especially kind of going down a little bit early on the first couple of goals. Mark, I mean, what did you see from the goaltending, and did you kind of feel the same way?
Yeah, it was definitely mixed feelings. I thought the defense didn't help out, but it was one of those situations where we weren't getting the big saves from Hill that we were in the first 2 games. So specifically on that second goal was pretty weak. I think he had a pretty good sight line on the puck, and I don't remember which arm it squeezed under. It might have been his blocker side, but he should have stopped the second goal. I'm not going to blame him as much for the first one. And then on that third one, Ferraro had a really weak backhander that he did actually a few times in the game that I was like, he was getting exploited a little bit with those, but he tried to get the puck out, did it very poorly. And then they stole the puck, quickly passed it across the ice, and there's not much Hill can do with limited reaction time. So I thought it was kind of a combination of defense and goaltending in that first period, not kind of living up to what they had been the first few games. Not solely on Hill, I'd say 50-50. Just let's leave it at that, I guess.
Yeah, and you had also talked about a little bit of the ineffectiveness of the Sharks' power play. The Sharks get a couple of opportunities back to back, and unfortunately, that power play just wasn't able to generate very much. I mean, there were maybe 2 or 3 good looks in total on both of those power plays. But again, it just seemed like they were really, really skating through sand in that first period. It just, the passing wasn't crisp. A lot of drop passes, a lot of second guessing on the shot. And it just seemed like it was a team that, I don't know if they were trying to pick their spots, but a little bit more selective than we've seen in the first 4 games, especially with the shot selection. And I felt that, Linus Ullmark wasn't tested, too aggressively in that first period. We didn't really see, outside of the Weatherby goal, we didn't see a lot of physicality in front of the net. We didn't see a lot of, contesting, in front of Linus Ullmark, and there just wasn't as many of the point shots that were getting through as clean. It really did look like, the team was, like I said, skating in quicksand. Maybe the mental facsimiles were not there, faculties, excuse me. And I also think that the team, I don't know if maybe they kind of waded into it, but again, just seemed a little timid, just seemed a little slow, and the decision making wasn't as crisp as we've seen it.
Yeah, and I think again, not in a game like this early on, you kind of had to capitalize on your opportunities because the Bruins were doing that. And Dahlin and Barabanov both saw open nets, weren't able to score. I think Barabanov's kind of caught the outside of the netting. I remember I think it was Weatherby who thought that puck went in. Yeah. And then there was Dahlin's opportunity, which I think might have hit a leg or two in front. But while the shots were fairly even in the first period, yeah, the Bruins had the more golden opportunities, and then that's why they were scoring. They were capitalizing on those moments. So the power plays couldn't really generate that momentum for the Sharks.
Yeah. And then, as you had said, it's a third game in what is it, 72 hours?
Something like that. I mean, they played not late, but East Coast time. They played 7 Thursday, 6 Friday, and now 1 o'clock on Sunday. So it's, a lot of games quickly. And, of course, Boston's not an easy place to play in, and that's for sure. Going into that second period, I felt that the Sharks, it was a little bit more of the same throughout the first kind of 10 minutes. Jake DeBrusk scoring on kind of just a broken play, goes in on his right, on the left wing side, shoots a goal again across the shoulder. And, it was just kind of a theme tonight. There it is, $1 in the jar. It was just kind of a theme this afternoon that Adin Hill kind of just shrunk down. You know what I mean? It kind of almost looked Jones-esque, that shoulder. And I wonder if maybe there was a little bit of fatigue, a little bit of jitters, a little bit of, all of the above with Adin Hill. And again, I think we could just see it in the confidence. He wasn't as aggressive, I don't think, in that first period and then the first half of the second period. And really, I think the team could all kind of feel it. And Bob Boughner decides to make the switch after that fourth goal by Jake DeBrusk. And James Reimer comes in and really, I thought, did a great job settling the group down. Especially after like the first 5 minutes after the goal where Boston still kept putting on the pressure. James Reimer made some really good stops, gave the team a little bit of confidence, and then they really started to build. You could tell that the team didn't have it still, but they were pushing the puck through the neutral zone a little bit cleaner.
They were passing and being a little bit more judicious about the shots, getting some more through, and then kind of posting up and getting the body in front of the goaltender. But again, it's still not at 100%. And you could tell that the team was definitely kind of running on fumes there. But, if you want to take the good parts out of it, the team continued to get stronger, right? They were kind of building upon each period, kind of upon each shift. After Reimer kind of stabilized, the goaltending, the team then continued to work shift after shift after shift, and then we saw the lines rolling a little bit more fluidly. I think that there was some movement. I think Balsers moved up and down the lines, and I think that the team responded well with Reimer being put in net. What did you see off of that after Reimer kind of gets the net and calms the team down a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. I think pulling Hill in that moment was kind of the right move. I think the team, like you said, did settle down a bit after that. Again, it was another goal that was high on Hill where they seemed to kind of exploit him this game, which is kind of strange just because he's such a big goalie. I think he's going to cover up some of that higher parts of the net even when he goes down. But I think Reimer actually played a really strong game after he came in, made some big saves. And the team, I wouldn't say they necessarily really looked like a much better team, but I feel like they just played a little bit more calmly all around. They shut the Bruins down the rest of the game. And I don't know if it was necessarily just because they were up 4-1 for the Bruins. Like the Sharks just played a much more structured game after that. But Reimer did make some big saves, and I think he gave the Sharks a chance to kind of come back. Talk about the third, even going into the third period, the Bruins looked like they had a lot of momentum in that first portion of the third period. Now, that's when I was kind of a little bit worried. I was like, what is this? This isn't the Sharks we've seen so far this year. They're playing a full 60 minutes. But Reimer made those stops, and I think that then gave the Sharks some momentum in the second half of that third period.
Yeah, and we've got a few comments that we'd like to highlight here from the chat. First off, Serena, appreciate the love for the background. Yeah, this has been years in the making. If you were a if you were a long-time viewer, you'd know that the first 2-3 seasons was Landi's Laundry, and definitely got an upgrade, and definitely looking a lot more professional. So yeah, I appreciate it. It took some time, but we definitely got it all pulled together. And then we got Field Tanatic Teal Bleeder saying, is that a 62 or 65 jersey there, Mark?
65 EK.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and EK doing I think tonight's game EK was okay. This afternoon's game was okay. I felt there were a couple times where he was a little suspect in his defensive zone. Again, I don't think he was immune from the criticism that the team looked sluggish. I think he looked sluggish. And I think Burns also looked sluggish too. And it probably a good time to point it out. The Burns and Ferraro pairing to me seemed like it was the weakest tonight.
Yeah.
Gosh, today. Well, I'm going to keep doing that. But, Ferraro and Burns just looked like they weren't on the same page and kind of a little bit scrambly in their own zone. Their kind of hallmark is that kind of inherent feeling where they know where each other's going to play. And I didn't feel like they had that today. I felt that they were maybe playing a little bit off more of positioning of the puck instead of kind of reading their body language and kind of reading across ice, where the other was going to be. And it definitely showed up in that first pass because I felt that pair wasn't making a good first pass out of the D zone. It felt like they were getting hemmed up in the neutral zone or getting intercepted, or if they were going to leg it out, it was going to get poked off of off the tape. And
yeah,
to me, it kind of looked that way from the eye test. I thought posting up an even on the plus minus, but yeah, not their best showing today.
And they got a lot of minutes too. That's the thing. Ferraro and Burns, they each came in at 27 minutes, but you look at Ferraro, and I think, as I mentioned earlier, with that weak backhand, that happened a few times during the game. And there was a few times where I thought the Bruins applied pressure on him and he didn't really play it well. Um, I don't know if there's some sort of link between being back in Massachusetts. I don't remember. I know he didn't play there last year. This is his third season, and maybe he had a lot of the local UMass crowd there watching him, maybe giving him some jitters. But I don't really know what it was. But Ferraro didn't look his same self today, and I think as a result, Burns didn't either. They did get the even when it comes to plus minus playing against that world class line, but I still saw a lot of plays that could have even resulted in goals where they kind of just coughed the puck up either in the zone or they just didn't make, like you said, the good outlet pass. So something was up there. I don't know. They've been getting a lot of minutes early on.
Yeah.
And like we've addressed multiple times, this is third game in 4 days. Maybe that had played a factor, but Burns, 27, 25, and 27 minutes, I think, in the last 3 games.
Yeah.
So they're riding him and that pairing as a whole a lot early on.
Yeah. It bears out from the stats, like you had said, coming in at about 28 minutes. Same with Ferraro. They're both clocking in about 27:40, 27:50. And, the team has been really reliant upon those two, especially for the tough matchups and then also for driving offensive play. And, now that we're starting to see Erik Karlsson starting to look a little bit more like himself and get a little bit more comfortable, leading on that back end, I'd like to see a little bit more of like a timeshare for that, that number one alpha dog kind of minute distribution. And the reason why I'm saying that is because, Erik Karlsson is a guy that is a minute muncher as well. He's a guy that can play 27, 28 minutes, 25 minutes, and a guy that can really, drive the bus when he's on. And it almost seems like the team has kind of put him into the secondary offensive defenseman position, and it bears out by his 22 minutes of ice time tonight. But I would like to see kind of more of maybe like a flip-flop where in one game it's a more Burns dominant game and then the next game it's a more Erik Karlsson game, and really being dependent upon matchups, right? When you're playing against a team, let's say like a Montreal, right, where it's mostly skill forwards, it's not a tight checking game, it's more of a free-flowing, east-west, where skating is at the premium. Really see a guy like Erik Karlsson, take the baton and lead the defenseman on ice time. But then when you're playing against a big physical, bruising, crashing team like the Bruins, this is the perfect opportunity to have a Brent Burns and a Meier Ferraro pairing to really extend their minutes. So I'm wondering if maybe we'll see that a little bit more. But as of right now, Bugner is flipping the script, or not flipping, but continuing the script from last year of just riding those two incredibly hard.
Yeah, and I think it's even just a point of longevity too. Like what happens later in the season. If you are able to split that time up a little bit more, maybe later in the season you have less risk of Burns wearing down. It's interesting because they're getting similar, I think, special teams time, whether it's PP or shorthanded. But the 5-on-5 is where Burns definitely seeing a notable difference, I think, over Karlsson. So I don't know if it's just the trust there or the fact that he's paired with Ferraro and he's more confident in that pairing as a whole. But I agree with you. I would like to see a little bit more of a split, maybe bring Burns down a few minutes and Karlsson up a few. You have two world-class defensemen. When they're playing well, you might as well kind of even that out a bit.
Yeah, spread the wealth a little bit and, get both of those guys out there for 20-plus minutes each, but, kind of get them a little bit more in line because today, Karlsson had 5 less minutes, and that was all on the even side of the ledger. So the team, is down 4-1, leaving that second period. We did get, like I said, some moral victories. Felt that the team was doing a little bit better throughout the second period, but still not really able to put much of a complete game against the Bruins through that point. And, we could talk a little bit about the new additions to the lineup today. Gadovich draws in for Lane Peterson, and then Alexander Barbanoff taking William Eklund's spot on the second line today. What did you think about the roster moves or lineup decisions? And was that just a result of playing the Bruins, or is this more about sending a message to a William Eklund like, hey, last game he wasn't as into the game as he had been prior to that. Now again, they were coming off of the back-to-back from Ottawa, so being a kid, coming back from Sweden, where the rigors aren't as stressful, but having that back-to-back and then coming against a team like Boston, do you think that was more just to kind of get the rookie some rest, or more of a message sending by Booner?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question, because you're never going to truly know what's going on there, because he's not going to say it probably in his press conference. But I would say it's probably a combination there. I think there's a lot, like we were saying, a lot of games early on, and Eklund's definitely not the biggest guy. So he's coming in, he's going to be playing the Bruins, a bruising team. He didn't have his strongest game in the prior game. Maybe also a factor is Barabanov's health. I know he kind of struggled with some injury issues in the preseason, hadn't been able to play a lot. So maybe they finally felt he was ready to get in a game, and just decided that it was time to make that switch after having a lot of games in a short period of time. I think Gadovich, he just definitely draws in for the physical aspect. He's a big player. He's tough. I think you bring him in, and I think those moves actually worked out fairly well today. I thought Barabanov looked pretty good. He looked confident with the puck. He definitely had some opportunities. I think he could have had a couple goals in this game, and he definitely had some nice passes there as well. I didn't notice as much Gadovich, but he did end up with the assist. He got 11, 12 minutes of ice time, so he gave the team some minutes. And I did notice him a few times in a physical sense, which everyone knows you always kind of need that against the Bruins. They're a big team. And even without guys like they used to have, like Lucic and Chara, they're still always a tough team to play against because of the style of hockey they play. Yeah. So throwing his body in there definitely helps, I think.
Yeah. I tend to agree with that too. And icing a little bit bigger of a lineup and bringing a couple fresh guys in that haven't played, I think helped inject a little bit more into that fourth line. The fourth line was the only line that got on the scoreboard through two periods. And again, it just seemed like Weatherby, really came to play. I thought Gadovich had some really, really good physical presence, was really strong, made a couple of nice, passes into the slot. So there's a little bit of creativity. And again, I think it just kind of made that fourth line a little bit harder to play against. Ian Reed, love you, brother. And coming up with the bottom six got worked by Toronto, and I think we all saw that too, with the Jason Spezza goal, kind of victimizing that fourth line, giving them a little bit new mojo, and then again giving them a little bit stronger of a physical presence, and especially against a team like the Bruins. I thought was a good play. Protecting William Eklund or sending him a little bit of a message, or all of the above. That's just the way that it is for a rookie sometimes. When a rookie shows that his not motivation, but I guess maybe the gas pedal can ebb and flow, and that it's not a consistent output from him. You're gonna have to teach the kid how to be a pro, and I think that's part of the evolution of his game. The thing I sort of worry about and sort of concerned is just kind of what is going to be the plan for him. Is it give him the 9-game tryout and then kind of see where he is after that, or has he really solidified his position on the team? And I think for a rookie, that also plays on the nerves, and I think it also plays on, maybe a little bit on your confidence, because you're worried that if you make a mistake, or you're worried that if you're not outputting at a certain level, that things like this, getting healthy scratched, could happen. So I think you expect a little bit of growing pains, but I'd also like to make sure that it doesn't evolve into another Mirko Mueller situation, right? Where, they burn that first year on the contract and he ends up, being in and out of the lineup and not really solidifying a spot. So, I hope that the team really does use kid gloves on him. I would expect him to draw back in against Nashville. Nashville's not, I wouldn't say that they're as overly physical as they have been in recent incarnations. But I also would like to see what kind of response Eklund has after, sitting down a game.
Yeah, and I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. I think it's a tricky area with someone of his age of how you play his situation. And until we get past that 9-game point, I'm not going to truly judge it, because we just don't know what the Sharks' plans are. I have a feeling he's staying based on how he's played. But I think even if he stays for the full season and they decide to give him a game off here and a game there, I'm actually not opposed to that, because, like, let's be real, they constantly say that those first few seasons in the NHL of being a professional is such a grind adjusting to that style, because there's no other place where you play that much hockey against that physical of a game. Like in the juniors, maybe you get 60, 70 games or close to that, but you're not playing like multiple times a week. You have like most of the week off because you got those weekend games. And in like the European leagues, how long are their seasons? Nowhere near this long. So for a guy like Eklund, who's also not a big body, I'm more than happy to see them give him games off here and there where they feel like, okay, he's still practicing with the top team. He's getting good minutes when he's playing. Let's just give him a night off and groom him this season. Like if he's here for the full season, but he only ends up playing 65 games, 70 games, I don't think that's counterproductive to his development. It's more what I would be concerned about is if he ends up getting buried like on a fourth line. That would piss me off because he's an offensive guy. He should be playing with top offensive talent. And I don't want him being relegated to 6-7 minutes a night sitting on the bench. That can hurt a player's confidence. I'd rather him be somewhere else where he's getting those top minutes, power play minutes, and really dominating.
Yeah, and quickly just to quickly cover up on number of games played over in the SHL, it is 52 games. So it's 30 less games. So there's definitely going to be some adjustment period there. And again, it's a work in progress, but really we've teased it out enough going into that third period. The Sharks, again, the first 5-10 minutes of that third period felt that it was very probative. They would chip the puck in, and then Boston would turn around and retrieve. Felt that the team really didn't turn the forecheck on until, I don't know, I would say probably like the 6-minute mark. Really, in the first 5-6 minutes, the team kind of waded into that third period, but then, started to do a little bit better puck placement. I think that they were also, bringing the puck through the zone and not doing cross ice passes through the zone, and more cleaner entries. And Tomas Hertl, like we had said a little bit before, early in the game, they hadn't had that net front presence, but Tomas Hertl gets in front of the net and gets a good tip on a Vlasic's point shot, and he gets his second on the season, and Vlasic and Barbanoff get the assists there, and all of a sudden it's 4-2 Boston, and the Sharks get a little glimmer of hope. They've got 13-19 remaining in that third period, and you go, okay, well, it's good to see them make a little bit of a push. Good to see them, not lying down and trying to, I guess, show a little bit of character going, into that third period and trying to end the game out on the right note. And then a minute and 40 seconds later, Timo Meier comes back with a goal, his third on the campaign. Couture and Burns with the assists. And all of a sudden, I mean, the Sharks just look like they flipped the switch, and it's full bore, full court pressure now. The Sharks, I think, really started to smell the blood in the water and really brought the shots on. And unfortunately, I think it was a little, a little too late to affect the outcome of the game. But I thought it showed a lot of character. I thought it showed a lot of character. I thought that it showed that this team is starting to mature a little bit, and that the team didn't give up even in the face of insurmountable odds at that point. And I mean, for me, a complete shift in the mental makeup of the team since last year. If we were to put last year's Sharks, on the ice for that third period, I would suspect that they would let in another couple of goals. And really just sag really, really hard. But instead, as I have been saying throughout the entire year and through the first 5 games, this is a team that continually gets stronger throughout the game. They start okay. I think sometimes they're a little probative. Sometimes, it's a little bit hard for them to kind of get it out of the gate. Now, we haven't had a bunch of home games in a row, so I would assume that would help mitigate that and help, bring that along a little bit. Starting on the road's a little bit tougher than it is starting at home. And, of course, it's the East Coast swing, too, so the time zones and, all that kind of stuff kind of partially explains why the Sharks maybe haven't started as crisply as we'd like to see, but they continually build through the course of a game, and I've seen it in all 5 games where the team just continually gets better and better and better and better through the game. Which again, last year it was short, inconsistent bursts, maybe having a good first in one game, maybe having a good third in another. Second periods were just absolute murder for the Sharks all of last season. But to me, this incarnation of the team looks like they're not taking things lying down. Looks like they will try to give all that they have. They emptied the tank. I don't think that there was anything else that they could have thrown at them in that third period, for Boston. And Boston really did hang on, by the skin of their teeth. I think they had really, really good opportunities with the empty net. Even before the empty net, I thought that they were pressuring really well. And it was a loss, but it wasn't a loss in which I am frustrated. I think had the game ended after that second period, I would have been a little bit frustrated. It would have been a game like, oh man, the team did not wake up on time. But having said all of that, adding in the third period where you come back and you score 2 unanswered goals and you get the team within 1, you at least give them the chance to pull the goalie with the extra attacker with the last couple of minutes of the game. That speaks volumes to me. It really does. It really does. And I'd like to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think you summed it up pretty well. And I think you look at this team and it's just a different energy from them versus last year. Like you said, it's not going down without some sort of fight, and you're not going to be perfect every night. They're obviously going to lose games playing the Bruins, who are a very tough opponent on the road, never an easy feat. And like they came out weak. They battled back at times. There are times where I think they could have definitely evened the score a little bit closer early on to give them a chance later on. But for the most part, those final 10 to 12 minutes, they carried the game. And like that goal by Hertl, just getting a stick on it gave them life. So you looked at that. They were back to what they'd been doing the first few games, just cycling the puck, possessing the puck, moving it, getting shots towards the net. They end up getting another tip by Meier to get the third goal. And then, they had opportunities even with the empty net. So like you look at the game as a whole, in no way am I upset after this loss. You hate losing, but you're obviously not going 82-0. So losses are going to be in there. You want to see some fight from the team when they lose. And this was a game where they easily could have even pushed this to overtime and gotten a point out of it. So this shouldn't be a setback for the Sharks. It's really how they go into the next game and how they play there. But I still like what I'm seeing. Like you said, they're fighting in their games, and it's not just like a quick burst of skill where they score a goal here and they try to score quickly and the momentum doesn't carry. You're seeing consecutive periods of time here where they're like carrying the flow shift after shift, generating opportunities, which is what you like to see.
Yeah. Yeah, and giving themselves an opportunity, right? I mean, that's the biggest thing is they give themselves an opportunity to get that into overtime. The game was out of reach, but then they seemingly bring it back into reach. So it's one of those losses. Sometimes we say that there are character losses and losses that build, a little bit of sandpaper, a little bit of grit. This was one of those to me. This was one of those. Yeah. This is a team that could have easily folded with the amount of hockey that they played within 3 days, the amount of travel within 3 days. I mean, you got to go from Canada, from Montreal to Toronto. Then they got to cross customs, got to do all that going into Boston, playing an early game. And there were a lot of excuses built into this game for me. But they, buckle up. They put the hard hats on, they put the work boots on, and they go to work in that third period, and they make it a game. And again, they give themselves a chance to tie it up late. All you really could have asked for out of that. And again, I think one of those character losses that I think will provide dividends later on in the season, just to show the group that, hey, you know what, nothing's out of reach. Even a 4-1 deficit going into the third period, you can make it close. So again, that's unfortunately the Sharks fall to the Bruins 4-3. The team really, characterized by a slow start, but really bring it up throughout the game. Able to kind of get the legs moving a little bit through that second and third period, and then inspiring confidence, I think, throughout the lineup. Yeah, you didn't get the win, but it was good to see the fight from the team. So, after all that being said, the Sharks had 26 shots on goal. I think that's a little low. I think, and we saw that from the number of point shots that got blocked. They took 40 shot attempts, and there was 14 blocks by the Bruins. So that just kind of goes to show you, how much the Bruins were getting in the lanes. Face-off percentage 48-52 in favor of the Bruins. You're going to be playing against Patrice Bergeron. You're playing against Charlie Coyle. You're playing against some big dudes, on the Bruins. And I felt that the Sharks, again, was it because of the late or the early start time that the face-offs weren't as crisp, or maybe it wasn't just enough energy in the tank, but that I think really does show kind of they were hovering in that 56% range, and then to come all the way down to 48%, I think goes to show you it was a little bit of an off night. 0 for 2 on the power play. But the big number that is a little concerning to me, Mark, that really stands out on this page is 16 giveaways.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of giveaways, and especially for a team like Boston, which is a bang type of team where they just feed off of giveaways, off of turnovers, off of poke checks in neutral ice. This is a team that likes to build momentum through the neutral zone, kind of bring in like on a three-man front going into the opposing defensive zone, and really starts to bear down. And when you do give away the puck, that kind of just feeds into their game. The giveaways have been high, have been double digits for the last few games. What are your thoughts on that? Is it just a young team or a team that really needs to focus a little bit more on passing?
I think it's a combination of that and also just like you said, the way the Bruins play. They're a quick transition team, but also with a heavy forecheck. You look at Marchand, he's going in there and he's gonna lay a hit. When you're playing against him, you're aware of a guy like him being on the ice, and I think he had a 3 or 4 takeaways this game. You look at some of those giveaways, like I mentioned from Ferraro earlier, it's those weak backhands. Those are the ones that always tend to, I feel like, hurt you, because a lot of times those either go into the stands and you end up with a penalty, or you just have a weak backhand that doesn't get out of the zone. It goes straight to the point, and then it just throws everyone off, whether it's the forwards, the goaltending, and you don't really have the time to react, especially against world-class players like the Bruins have on that top line, and even onto the second line with Hall when he's on his game. Coyle's a good player. So you have guys like that, they're going to capitalize on those opportunities. So as the Sharks looking at that, that's a number you definitely circle after this game is we gave the puck away twice as many times as the opponent. And it directly led to, I think it was 2 or 3 of those goals. So you can circle that, look at it as a reason of difference in this game. One other thing you mentioned is the Sharks finally gave up a goal on the power play. So they had the perfect PK coming into this game, but the Bruins were able to capitalize on one of those. So PK has been strong early in the year. You're obviously not going to go 100% for the full season, but that was also that one goal could have been the difference in this game is the special teams there.
Yeah. I mean, the next 2 power plays that Boston got, I felt that the team did a lot better of a job with shot suppression, and I think that they did a little bit better of a job letting Reimer seeing the puck. We got a couple of questions or one little comment here that I'd like to highlight. Carl, appreciate you chiming in. He likes Middleton this year. Will he stay this year or will he be sent down? Right now with the Knyzhov injury, I think Middleton has really kind of cemented a spot in the lineup. We've yet to see Sateri Hataka, kind of draw in. So it'll be interesting to see what he brings to the table and what kind of attributes he has, and maybe just give a little bit different of a look. But I've liked Middleton's game. I thought that he's brought a good physical presence on the back end. He's got points in he had points in 4 games. Did he get on the board tonight? He did not get on the board tonight. But this is a guy that we didn't really expect much out of. A guy that's a stay-at-home kind of guy, more defensively responsible, bigger body, but quietly really having a nice little start to the season with Erik Karlsson and having some chemistry. And what are your thoughts on Middleton so far, and what have you liked out of his game?
Yeah, exactly what you said. I think he's been reliable, and that's the most thing you want of the guy who's playing with Karlsson. He's given us good minutes. I think he's been a physical presence. I liked him today in that fight. They need someone who's physical, right? And I'm not a big advocate for fighting, but occasionally they're going to happen. He's a guy who can do that. And I think he's earning his way onto the NHL lineup. Whether that's long-term, I don't know. I definitely would like to see Hataka get into a game here or there because I'm very high on his game. And I think long-term, he's going to be a player the Sharks fans are going to become very familiar with. But Middleton's been surprising for me. He's given the team good minutes. Like we said, he hasn't been really at fault. I feel like I can't think of any goals that were specifically his fault, but as a whole, you can't think of him as like a weak point on the defense so far. So yeah, I'm fine with him continuing as Knyzhov gets back from that injury. I mean, who knows how Knyzhov will even be coming back from that? Because it's not an easy injury. It's going to be a couple months, so he's going to take some time to get back in, and the Sharks are going to need guys to fill in. So Mids is doing a great job at that so far.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we'll see Knyzhov at the earliest until after the Christmas break. I think probably January is kind of when I'm circling a return to the lineup for Knyzhov, and at that point they're going to have a decision on whether they're going to sit Shimmick or they're going to sit Middleton, or some other permutation or another injury if there's something that goes on back there. Excuse me. And I mean, Maria chiming in kind of quickly here. We have talked a little bit about the lineup decisions, but I think both Mark and I have kind of said it was a little bit to do with the lineup that Boston was bringing out, and I think a little bit to do with just giving Eklund a little bit of a rest because he's not used to the reps. Lane Peterson, to me, had been okay. Really hadn't brought... He had a couple of flashes where I felt he brought some skill to that fourth line, but really just more of a defensively responsible kind of forward, a guy that could take a face-off here and there, but there wasn't anything out of his game that specifically shouted at me that said, okay, we got to keep this guy in. So I think it was just a case of trying to see what they had in Gadovich and getting the bigger body in. I mean, any other thoughts before we close it out on the game today on the lineup changes? You think it bit them in the butt, or maybe the goaltending decision not coming back with Reimer in this game?
No, I was actually surprised they didn't even do it earlier. And while it worked out against the Leafs, I thought on back-to-backs they actually would have made some changes there. But no, I think it speaks a little bit to the depth of the team this year. You're going to see other guys jump into the lineup, and if they can fill in like the guys did today and play fine, that's a good problem to have. You want guys who can fill in because ultimately there's going to be injuries throughout an 82-game season. So, no, Barabanov, like I said, he looked good. I said that earlier. And then how do you pronounce it? Is it Gadovich? I'm not 100% sure.
Gadovich, I think.
Gadovich. Okay. He I like him there because he's another physical body. You put him with Weatherby, and you got two guys there pretty big. So I support that decision, especially against a team like the Bruins.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm definitely in agreement there. Okay. A little bit. Okay. Maria is saying appropriate. She felt like there could have been some more adjustments going on due to the scheduling. We've talked a little bit about ice time distributions and things like that earlier. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Get the little notification bell going. That way you can check in on Teal Town USA after dark. Oh, of course, it's not after dark, but you can check out all of these post-game shows. We do it after every game. It's driven by fans for the fans, and it's something that we love doing and love bringing out to everybody. So again, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe, and that really helps us out. Okay, so I guess let's do a little bit of a forward outlook then, going into that game against Nashville. Do you think Reimer bought himself a start with that second and third period? I tend to think so, but we have seen stranger things before. What are your thoughts on the goaltending going into Nashville, and what are you expecting out of the team from them?
I actually really support the idea of giving him a start. I really want a 1A and a 1B situation this year. I think that's kind of the shift in the NHL. You got to have two goalies playing well. And when you have that kind of competition, I feel like both guys tend to play better. So, yeah, I'm all for Reimer drawing in the next game. He earned it with how he played in, about 38-ish minutes, whatever it was today. So, yeah, why not? The team can come into that Nashville game, close up the road trip before heading back home. A lot of times that's kind of a tricky game. So we'll see how the Sharks come out in that one. It might be a situation where they come out slow again and then have to kind of battle their way back. But I think that's kind of what we'll have to see. Or maybe they'll come out really strong thinking, well, we can wrap up a road trip now with a big win. So Nashville's in no way a strong opponent. You hope the Sharks go in there and take the points. But we'll see which team we get.
Well, I mean, the team can make it a great road trip, going 4-1 on the road trip, and far exceeding all the expectations that we've all had. Really playing to a collective team identity. I think a team that plays for each other, a team that doesn't quit, and a team that just finds a way to make it close. And I think that's all you can really ask for at this point from this collection of players, especially with the infusion of youth. So I'm seeing some really, really good things. Everybody's kind of talking a little bit about Evander Kane, and the thing is, we don't have to worry about that for another 16 games. It's actually 16 or 17, right? Well, it's 21 game suspension, 22 games or 21 games?
I think it was 21.
21. Yeah. Okay, so we got another 16 games to worry about that. And at this point, I'm definitely one. I definitely believe in the chemistry argument. I'm definitely one to believe that locker room, it just looks on the players like they have a weight lifted off of them. They look like they're having fun again. You saw how the team responded to Hertl's tip. You've seen how the team has responded to Weatherby's first goal, to Dahlin's first goal, to Eklund's points and first goal. I think that the team has got some really strong mojo right now. I think it's got some really good character, and it's in a good place. And I don't think that it is strong enough to absorb a player like an Evander Kane at this point in time, the locker room. And quite frankly, I don't see the team wanting to bring him back because of just the amount of disturbance and the amount of focus that gets generated in a negative way when he's playing. I mean, there's always some kind of storyline, whether it's getting dinged in the preseason for a hit on a ref, or Ryan Reeves shenanigans on Twitter, or putting his foot in his mouth on Instagram, or whatever. There seems to be a litany of things that follows this guy around. And put me in the camp that gave him a chance after Buffalo. I thought, okay, he's coming to a place, a little bit more accepting of free thinking, of a little bit more liberal ideas. And I thought that might be a place similar to where he grew up in Vancouver, where, that would be more of a strength and a positive for him as a human being, and helping him develop some character for himself. And I gave him that chance. And unfortunately, he, burned us with that. And I think it's a team that, especially if they have any aspirations of keeping Hertl in the fold long term, I don't see how you can bring him back at this point. And that's really all I really want to get into on that particular situation. But Mark, I mean, if you wanna dust that off, and we'll close the book until we get a little bit more information.
Yeah, I pretty much everything you said. I mean, I'm a little bit bitter because I've even got like a stealth jersey of his that's now essentially useless. But I was actually a big fan of Kane. I liked the trade. I even was cool with the contract. I thought he'd earn it via his play. And to be fair, he did. It's just what's always plagued him is his off ice shenanigans. And you'd think being given the golden opportunity of a fresh start, a team, Jumbo was picking him up at the airport. You thought a lot of these things would help him whip his life into shape. But I'm not going
to. It's his team, right? I mean, it's his and Logan's team. He was put in a position to lead. Put in a position to really, be the franchise player, one of the franchise players.
Yep.
And pissed it away.
Yeah, it's disappointing, and I'm in the same boat as you. I don't really want him coming back to this team. They've showed way too much chemistry after the awful season they had last year, where it just looked like every man playing for himself. So I would like to keep this unit kind of together as they are, and then figure out what to do with Kane separately. Just keep him away at this point.
Yeah. And unfortunately, with the contractual obligations and stuff, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge, but we will see, what exactly Doug Wilson has up his sleeve, because he's always a wizard, especially with the cap. If you haven't already, please remember to subscribe. Tell your friends about us. We'd love to get to the 2,500 subscriber mark. We're getting real close, so appreciate all the word of mouth for everybody. And then, of course, tonight, do not forget, there will be a Pucknologist live at 7 p.m. Pacific. They will go ahead and wrap the week that was for the Sharks. They'll have some good commentary, and they'll get to get their input on where the team is at and just how they're developing. I think just from our internal discussions amongst the Teal Town crew, this has been a pleasant surprise. It's been a pleasant surprise, and I think that all of us have seen some really, really good growth out of the team, has seen some really good resurgence from the veterans we needed to see resurge, and just showing character through those first 5 games. Again, you're not going to win them all, but going through and putting up as good as a fight as they did in 3 games and 4 nights. Really, again, sticking to a structure, playing to that structure, not playing a lot of me superstar type hockey where you just give it to one player and that's it. It's definitely structured, definitely a team that wants to play for each other, and is starting to buy into what Bugner is selling. Yeah, for me, it's a great outlook, and the pucknologists will go ahead and break that down, and they'll bring their own thoughts and opinions to the table. So check that out. It's here on YouTube, of course. But if you want to grab that link, check us out on the Twitter. But also, check out tealtownusa.com, where we've got everything that we've been posting up. We've got some great articles. Of course, you get all the replays, and just a great place for Sharks fans to kind of congregate and get their news on the team. So, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on who you are, we will not have the favorite segment of the day, because there are no other games to talk about. The Sharks started up with the matinee, and of course it's 10 o'clock on the started up with the 10 o'clock game on the Pacific Coast. So we're barely kind of getting into the meat of tonight's schedule. I think the Predators go ahead and kick it off at 3 p.m. 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. So we've got about another hour till we get another puck drop going on. So it'll be the Predators and the Wild, followed by the Blackhawks and the Red Wings, the Islanders and the Golden Knights, and that kind of wraps up your lazy Sunday afternoon. So maybe go out and check out some football. Of course, we won't talk about the 49ers, but anyhow, yeah, it'll be a good little night of respite in the NHL with only those 3 other games on. And in case you missed it, you can catch us everywhere. I mean, literally everywhere. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on the Google Play Store. Of course, on the YouTube with the replays, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeartRadio. Your favorite podcasting radio app, we're probably on it. So yeah, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Check it out. Check out all the great content that we've got coming to you. And quickly, we'll just give it our normal send out. So Mark, what are your final thoughts on where the people can find you?
Final thoughts. Sharks are 4-1. All right, we're looking good. Let's not get too upset over one loss to the Bruins, a great team. So let's all be really happy with what we've seen so far through 5 games. I'm feeling optimistic, and I'm really hoping my bold prediction of the Sharks making the playoffs is looking strong after 5 games. So yeah, you can find me as on the screen at Mark SJS. Follow me. I'm regularly posting updates on Sharks prospects as well as rambling about the Sharks. So some good stuff there. Love the discussion. And that wraps it up on the day for me.
Appreciate it, Mark. Appreciate you coming out, especially on on one of these wacky game times and one of these wacky, not even after dark, but after afternoon, right?
Yeah. It'll be dark here soon.
Yeah, it'll be dark.
You got about an hour left of light.
Yeah. Yeah. And for myself, you can find me at Eric Landi, of course, on the screen. That's ERIK, spelled the right way, LANDI on all the social media garbage. Name a platform, I'm probably on it. So go check us out, and appreciate everybody tuning in, and everybody, just starting to enjoy this season and seeing where it's taken us. So with that being said, let's see if I can get this sign off right. Let's keep it real. Let's keep it teal. Let's keep it real, Teal. Thanks, everybody, and we will see you after the game against the Nashville Predators on Tuesday. Have a great one.